7:35.
Talk about the very thing.
Here we go. We want to welcome Jim Kershke. Did I get that right, Jim?
Yes, that's right.
And he's with AAA certified. He is AAA certified locksmith, and we invited him to come down and talk today. He's been doing some work for us and appreciate his service.
Good.
Yeah.
Well,
here's what I want to know. I put the key in the door and I turn the key. How does that work? Because in the old movies and the old TV shows, we just take a little nail file, we'll go in there and we'll pick that lock, or I'll take a little Allen wrench and go in there and pick. Can you do that?
no, it don't work that way.
I didn't think it did. It does in TV.
Yeah. The pins have to line up to the shear point, they call it, where there's a break. There's two pins and a spring, and the top pin has to line up to the shear point at the bottom pin.
So that's why the teeth or the curvature of the key.
Right. When you get all of them lined up, all 5 or 6, depending on what the lock is, when they all line up, then it will turn. If any one of them is not lined up, you can't turn it because it's blocking it.
Interesting. Wow.
So when they in the TV shows, when an NCIS or whatever, and they come through with that little lock pick, and it takes them like a second and a half to get through the door. You're saying that maybe isn't a true representation?
No, it takes a little longer than that.
Yeah, and some locks are more difficult even than that as far as being able to pick and stuff. I know that there's, and I'm blanking on the name of the lock, but I used to have a key at the United Center that couldn't be duplicated, and you never want to say never could anybody break in, but it would be a big,
extremely hard.
Yeah.
Well, they also have these where the top pin is what they call a mushroom pin. Instead of being straight up and down, it's got a little, shaped like a mushroom, so that when you put any sideways torque on it, it tilts, and then you can't move them up and down, and locks the pins in place. So it makes them next to impossible to pick. And of course, I've got ways of getting around those too, but I'm not going to divulge all of it.
We used to just take slams with us when we'd be doing search warrants and stuff. You put the thing with the door lock slam.
Yeah.
Where you put the screw it in there, and just hit it with the
weight
on there. Yeah, like a dent puller type thing.
Yeah.
But a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
And just take the whole lock out, and then you go, okay, that worked real well. And you go in.
And I've even seen them take like these, what do they call them, the fork that you use for pulling the front end pieces off.
Spreader fork.
It get that thing just about the right width to go over the back of the knob. You put that behind there, and then, or you can put 2 of them there and just do this and just pop the whole knob right off.
Huh.
So there's ways to get in, but the locks now are much better than they were in the past, and they're more difficult to circumvent.
Right.
And
of course, as a locksmith, you don't want to damage the stuff.
Right.
You try to do the least damage you can.
Sure.
So how can we make our homes more secure with the services you provide? Perhaps we have elderly woman living alone, gentleman living alone, and they've got a lock on the door, but, is that really secure? Can they call you and say, Jim, what can I do? Can I put a deadbolt in? Can I put a more secure lock on my door? What can we do?
Yes, a deadbolt is always much better than just a straight latch, because the deadbolt is like the term implies, is a straight bar that locks it in. There's no way to jimmy that back. And with the latch, it has a safety pin on there, but if it doesn't fit just exactly right, sometimes that safety pin is not. It pulls into the hole, and then you can still push the latch back.
Mm-hmm. And of the services that you do, being properly fit is actually probably the most important part of a lock system, is that it fits correctly.
Yes, that's correct.
That all the mechanics of it work, that the door isn't loose, and you can tighten these frames up to some degree.
Right.
So that you're not getting drafts in the winter, and you're not losing your air conditioning in summer, and you can provide that service. Correct?
Right. That's correct.
Yeah.
I noticed one time, Jim, that was back in the winter when it was really dry. I could close my front door and you'd hear the click, but if I reached in and pushed a little bit harder, then you hear the click, the safety pin, you could actually hear it
The second click.
The second click.
That's when your security pin clicks on into the hole, and then you'd be able to push the thing back because it's not keeping it from going back then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's something, and several times, I thought, well, I got that front door closed and the windstorm come up or something, the front door shut
Well,
open.
and the difference in a professional installation as opposed to me going and buying a locksmith from one of the big box stores and putting it in, the size of the screws, and very important to make sure that you've got enough bite into that wood, and if the wood's not good, to either get farther into it
right,
or get it replaced, and because a lock is only as good as the frame that's holding it.
right.
And you can help with that.
Yeah, and they even have now they got these steel pieces that you can add to the door frame.
Really?
That
It'll reinforce.
It reinforces everything.
Yeah.
No, you were asking about electric
Well, we're talking about the
lock.
keypad locks, so that if you don't carry a key with you all the time, or you need if you're out, like I've got one out on the barn because I don't always have the key with me. My key's with me, and you could do that.
Yeah.
And how do those work?
Well, the way it works is you can set the code as to whatever you want, and then as you punch the code in, it electronically retracts the deadbolt.
Mm-hmm.
And but if you forgot your code and you got your key, you can also unlock it with the key.
Yeah, it's got the key on it. Right.
But
and those can be then you could program them for a child, or for if you had a workman that was going to be there for a day or two, you could give them a code for that time, and then take that back out, and then change it back out.
Right.
Yeah, let's say we had people coming in. Hey, we're gonna be in Little Rock, and y'all gonna get there before we get home. Just key in the code and wait for us. We'll be there 3 hours after you get there, type of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I had one time where this lady had this office in this apartment building, and she said that somebody was getting in and playing her computer at night. And she said, I've changed my code several times, but they're still getting in. I said, well, did you think that they might happen to have a key and they can get in anyway? So then I rekeyed it for her, and then from then on she didn't have any more problems.
Well, yeah, but you can see how that could happen. Yeah, you're not thinking about that. I changed the code.
Oh, goodness. Locksmithing has to be one of the last real craft trades, I think. Think about it. I mean,
well, think of the size of the parts you're working with.
Yeah.
So, and of the services that you do, you rekey things.
Yes.
So if someone's moving into their home, obviously related to my business, somebody's moving to their home, you can come out and because we get this all the time where we'll go to closing and they'll give us like 10 keys for the house. Like every door's got a different lock on it. So, but you could come and you could rectify that.
Yes.
And make everything one key so that people could get in and out.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Makes all your keys, all your locks use one key.
Yeah.
The same key for every lock in the house.
Yeah. That's a very good thing.
Okay.
And you can obviously, like I said, you can tighten up the mechanics of it.
Right.
And you're not going to.
And if sometimes they get a little corrosion in there and so forth. I got a special lube I put in there to loosen all that up. Makes the locks work a lot smoother.
Yeah, a little
They're still
lubrication.
using liquid graphite?
No, it's it's not graphite. It's an actual oil,
Really?
a real light oil that's made for locks.
Really?
Yeah.
Remember, 100 years ago, we used to put liquid graphite or powdered graphite.
Powder. I remember it being in a little tube. You'd give it a little squeeze going in there.
The problem with the graphite is if you get moisture in the graphite, you end up with pencil
Turn
lead.
into mud. Yeah, right. Well, it turned into like a mud. It would be worse.
It turns into, and once it dries back out, it becomes like pencil lead, and it locks things up where you can't get in.
So don't put that on the outside of the lock.
No.
So that's this oil that I use also dilutes that stuff and gets it loosened up where it can get it.
So the oil has to have a bit of a detergent to it.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
I know that it's the last weekend of June, but come December, and people are trying to get into their cars. Not everybody's got the fobs and the electronic locks and stuff.
Right.
What's the best way for them to, when the locks are frozen, what's the best way for them to get them unfrozen?
Well, they have de-icers diffuse for locks.
Okay.
It'll dissolve the ice inside.
And that's probably the best way. And that'll probably lube it and everything else. Then, okay. So don't be sitting out there with your lighter, with your old Zippo, trying to heat up the back of the key to put it in there. That doesn't probably not the best way.
What I have done in years gone by is take WD-40 and spray in my in the outdoor door lock because it displaces the water.
Well, that's another thing. You don't want to use WD-40 on a lock.
Really, what's that?
Because over time, WD-40 dries out and becomes gummy.
Gummy, yeah.
And it stops them from moving smoothly.
Huh.
Again,
use the
lube I
oil.
use. The lube I use dissolves
Jim's
that
a professional.
He's a pro, I know.
The lube I use dissolves that WD-40 and gets it cleaned up.
Because it does. It'll get gummy on you. It sure will.
And we didn't mention here. Grab a piece of paper and a pencil. This is AAA certified locksmith. And you can get a hold of Jim at 870-425-4364. It was 425-4364. And you can call Jim, and you got any questions that we didn't think of, or some locksmithing needs, Jim can help you out with those issues.
With that, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. $7.49. More with Mr. Jim, 3A certified locksmith. You got some more stuff for us, Jim?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
Here's some more reasons why you should really think about this when you get a new house. You don't know who had keys from previously. Your previous owner had a key. They might not have turned them all back in or given to the realtor. You got their teenage kids had keys, and they could give them to their friends. Then you got maybe the person had a cleaning person there that they gave a key to, or a home health person that they have given a key to. There's the contractors may have done work there, and they've got a key.
Hey, the key's under the mat. I ain't there anymore. Where's that? Don't know.
Yeah, and all kinds of different things like that can have keys out that went to that house. When you buy the house, you don't know who's else got a key that could give it to anybody, and you know who's getting a hold of the key. That's the reason you need to have your keys, your locks rekeyed when you buy a new house.
Wow.
There you go.
Straight from the professional.
Yes, indeed. And you can make car keys, you can make house keys, you can make shed keys, you can make, anything. Little padlock keys.
Right.
Can those be rekeyed? Can the padlocks?
Some padlocks are rekeyable. Okay. Most of them are not.
Okay. So you I imagine farmers have been doing this long enough to know that to get all these things keyed alike and stuff is going on. And is there anything you can do to help these locks last a little longer as far as out of the weather and things like that and the moistures? Are some locks better than others for being outside?
Yes, they are. You can buy locks there's some that have a rubber coating, some that are just made special for being in the weather. Your typical cheap padlock is not that way.
Yeah, and they're gonna rust up.
They'll rust or corrode. And
so people that have got them, because we run into that where they'll have a lock on the crawl space.
Oh yeah.
Going underneath, and here, and then you get When's the last time you run there? Oh, I don't know, 1978.
Oh boy, yeah.
Or they'll have a little flap like a tire inner tube type, little flap over where the thing was, and the moisture's just been building up, and then you open it. Oh man! So you end up with bolt cutters and things.
When exterior, your front door, side door, back door, and let's say that the doorknob quits functioning. You can turn it, but you still can't open it, and the spring or something bust in there. Like, well, I'll run to Walmart, buy a new one. Are those good doorknob units?
Well, there are some good ones. Some that are better than others. But then again, you're going to have a new, different key than what you had for everything else, and you're back to where you're going to start carrying a bunch of keys.
And the installation that you're going to do, you're going to put the screws right back into the same holes in there. Like I said, the integrity of the lock is in the
hardware,
frame, the hardware, and how well it's installed, and that's really the big part.
So that's why I need to call Jim.
And
the best bet, yeah.
I've had some people that would call me and say, "Well, I bought this new lock and I put it in, and I can't get it to work." and I go there and they've installed it improperly.
Yeah.
And all I got to
Sure.
do is rearrange the way they put it in and make it work fine.
Yeah, I mean, because having you there for 15 minutes is probably worth an hour and a half of somebody's time.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of figure out what is your time worth as far as having it done correctly one time and be one and done, as opposed to you going back. Well, we'll just jimmy it. We'll push it over a little bit and raise it and lower it and do it everything else. And the door doesn't close all the way and you're getting drafts, whereas Jim can come and fix that.
Very good. What else? What have we overlooked that you need to get out there with the folks?
Well,
I think we've covered a bunch of stuff. I find this kind of work interesting because you were here a week or so ago changing the locks on the front door. And, hey, we might ought to have Jim come on and talk a little bit, you know. So let's reemphasize the fact of the security issue in Bob's line of work in the real estate.
And part of the security issue is I'm thinking about this and why the locks were changed here and why we change locks many times is, you know, maybe your marital status changes or your familial status changes with, you know, kids and loved ones and maybe used to be loved ones. You have a guy like Jim, have Jim come in and change all the locks on the house. That's probably the most important thing that you can do for your personal safety and for your protection. And the reason that you have locks on there is to keep people out. So the more people can get through that lock, the least secure you are.
Well, there's also,
go ahead.
There's also if you get locked out of your car.
Yeah.
That's another thing I do is get people in their cars or trucks or whatever. And there's I've heard of people that they get somebody that comes there, and I heard one time told me, he said this one guy came for an hour. He's a little cheap guy, and he said he's using a old bent up coat hanger trying to get the car open and tearing the thing up. I said, it takes me a few seconds to get the car open without damage.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's the reason they call the professional.
That's why you call it professional. We used to Slim Jim car locks for people, you know, to help get them in, but they were all just one rod in there, and
sure.
you'd hit it with that. Now with the airbags in the cars and the power windows and the power locks and all this stuff, you can cause way more damage and much more expensive than if you called Jim one time.
Jim Kursky, 3A certified locksmith, 870-425-4364. You serve North Arkansas, Southern Missouri?
Yes.
Yep. Give Jim a call, and if you have some security issues, give Jim a call.
There you
He'll
go.
help you out. Bob, real quick, your phone number.
870-405-0793. RetiredArkansas.net. Give my honey a call and make an appointment. Make an appointment. We're not just sitting there. Call Century 21 for all your real estate needs.
You betcha. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. The weekend is upon us.
Have a good. Enjoy it.
Cloudy, enjoy the rain and the cooler temperatures. We will see you on Monday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.